Welcome, everybody. Um, so I'm going to give you a little overview of our call. I'm going to give you some notes about how we come together, and then I'm going to lead us in a prayer. Then Kent is going to introduce Anthony. He always puts together a beautiful little bio, and then Anthony's going to share his thoughts on polarity and the power of the choice. And then we're gonna open it up for juicy, positive path discussion. Okay, so overview is complete. So now I'll talk about the culture. So here's the three basic pillars of how we like to come together for the Sharing the Path Salon series. The first one is the invitation to connect with yourself in such a way that supports connection with other self. So honoring our truth and our authenticity, stepping into that love and that connectedness that begins with self. And in that way, the invitation to share humbly from our own direct experience. So that's the first. And then the next is once we're connected with ourselves and reaching out to connect or experiencing that connection with other selves, listen to one another for resonance, for overlap, for shared truth. So really respecting, the truth from another. And then finally, honoring varying perspectives. So when another self is sharing something, for instance, it doesn't necessarily align with your truth, making space for their free will and not convincing one another of anything, that we don't all need to leave with the same perspective. Thanks for being with us in upholding that culture and those ways of being. Welcome, friends. Yay.
Thank you, West.
Yeah. Okay, and so now I'm gonna lead us in a prayer and then I'll turn it over to Kent.
Yeah.
Okay. First, just find a moment of stillness and let us open in love to those qualities of goodness that we find in our experience. An infinite creator, guides and allies, we invite you to support us in our intentions of coming together to amplify positive evolution within our own journeys and on the planet. Guide us in love, support us in seeing the creator in everyone, in everything. With so much gratitude. Amen.
Thank you, West.
Yeah. Your turn, Kent.
All right. So, West and I first met Anthony at CBEC in Washington State in 2023. And it didn't take us long to discover that he was an encyclopedia of knowledge and information. He's probably the only person I know that has read all of the LL research channelings, including all the raw material and the core material. Which that alone gives him a wellspring of information to draw from. He has also studied a lot of other material. That's basically how he spends most of his time, as I understand it. He says he watches spiritual videos like a lot of other people watch sports videos or sports programming. So yeah, He really is an encyclopedia of information. He sent me a little bio of some childhood experiences he had, and I'm going to go through them quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing because that would take too long. When he was 5, he had the first of what he describes as paranormal experiences when he was playing with his toy cars, and he made one of them disappear. And
I don't know if I made him disappear, but I saw it disappear.
yeah,
Maybe
right.
I did, maybe I didn't, but I tell you what, it stuck with me.
Yeah, right. Either way, it's set him off on a lifelong search for answers, you know. So whether it disappeared or not, you know, that was the beginning of his searching for answers. And then at 7, uh, you know, he was having trouble going to sleep or resisting going to sleep. And he heard this woman's voice telling him that it was time to go to sleep, you know. And it was not his mother or his sister. And as soon as he heard the woman's voice, he felt this calm come over him and he just drifted off to sleep. So that was a powerful experience. At 8 years old, he was watching TV with his mother and sister. And for some reason, he felt the impulse to look out the window. And outside the window, he saw this orb hovering over the streetlights outside. And he got his mother and the sister to look out too. And then he said this orb was cycling in brilliant colors, orange to yellow to red and back again. And then a helicopter approached, but before it got close enough to identify the orb, it veered off and took off. And then the orb morphed into a cylinder and just shot away. So after that, he began watching videos about UFOs and stuff like that. And that's really when his spiritual search began. He started looking into all kinds of paranormal things after that, from the age of 8. When he was 17, he had an even more close encounter, actually, with a UFO. He was camping with a friend by the Columbia River, and at around midnight, the radio crackled. They were listening to music on the radio, but the radio crackled with static, and then they saw this bright light from the car through the tree line, and Anthony got scared, so he hid in the car. But his friend, who was more fearless, he went outside to investigate. But then Anthony looked out the window and he saw these 3 beings approach the car, and they opened the car door and they reached for him. And after that, his memory went blank. He doesn't remember what happened after that. But that's a pretty amazing experience.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we all wonder what happened. If you ever remember, please tell us.
Oh, I bring it. I had hypnosis. I had hypnotic regressions after that. So I have a little bit of a knowledge about that stuff, but even listening to it now, it gives me goosebumps because I don't have as many memories of my childhood as I would expect, but those memories are very vivid
I'm
compared to
sure.
a lot of other memories where usually my family will have to prompt me and then it comes back to me, but I usually don't have huge like reminiscence of the past and things like that happen, except for those experiences I shared with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. And so uh, he's been on a spiritual path his whole adulthood, basically. I mean, even as a child. And then when he was in his early 30s, he watched a David Wilcock video where David mentioned the law of one material. So that set him off into looking into the law of one material. That was about 10 years ago. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I'm not
So,
literally have not stopped reading it since that day,
yeah,
literally
right.
back to back. And more so listening to it is more accurate. I have Voice Stream is something I recommend everyone I meet. Voice Stream is an app that allows you to put any PDF into your phone and it will read it to you. Now they have AI on it, so they have all kinds of fancy voices. But literally, I listen to that like I watch TV, probably like 2 or 3 hours every day is what and
Mhm.
anytime I feel uncomfortable, it just to me they're like teachers. I actually, and I encourage everyone to really either listen to it or read it because you start to experience them like how Jim and Carla did in kind of a linear way, where they introduce themselves. You meet Hatan first and Latwi first, I mean, Laitos first, and you get to understand their personalities. And Latwi comes in, and later on, Ra will come, and after Ra leaves, everyone and their mama comes. You have all kinds of different people that show up for some time. And so LL Lima shows up and kind of changes the way that the formatting is, the questions were, and that's when they went to a group question. And then that's when around the time that Quo started to show up, and eventually Quo kind of took over. And every now and then we get hits on and Latsui that pop in here and there until we have now Gary and Trish, who do an excellent job, actually, to be honest with you. If you study it like I do, you'll see that there's very little distinction when you're listening to whether because interesting with the voice stream, I only hear it in one voice. And so if it's reading it to me as if Gary was channeling it, or if Carl was channeling it, or if Jim is channeling it, it all sounds the same. And that's something that I noticed that really made me want to dive deeper into studying it and finding kind of where the holes were at first. Because it was like, this is too good to be true. There got to be something that's there, that's that's missing. And that just made me even more of a student of it, because as I saw and I seeked for little areas of holes and things, I never found them. And so, or I should say, I never found anything that was relevant enough to make me feel otherwise.
Hmm. Well, you can just continue. You can just continue onto your talk.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So, when I was thinking about this, I was kind of sitting in meditation. I really didn't, I don't plan these talks too much because of this whole thing. I have so much, knowledge. The time it takes to sit down and try to pour through it all, I can just sit down and just talk to you guys about it. But I really want to kind of come with a something that I could really be honest about, and something that I can really share my experience with. And what I found and really, let's start at the beginning. So when I first started really looking into this just a child, I was someone probably like most of you guys who are wanderers and just gifted people. Um, I really felt a lot of alienation, especially at school. Not only because I was the only like black kid in an all white school in Portland, Oregon, but people were always, in my opinion, just very harsh and cold. Kids used to tease people and be rude, and it irked me. And I used to be the type of person. There used to be autistic kids at our school, and they used to get bullied. I used to pick fights with the kids and bully them. Now I can't fight, but I would just feel so. Even thinking about it now, I just get so riled up about those days. I was that type of person. I just couldn't see someone be harmed or be disrespected for no reason, especially someone that couldn't really defend themselves, and it really got on my skin. And I had an experience where my parents had sent me to the store, and we lived in downtown Portland, Oregon, right near the baseball, well, now it's the soccer stadium there. And it was a big deal for me. My parents finally let me go to the store, and I go walk into Fred Meyer's, and I see a autistic individual, black man, reaching for an item on the shelf. And all these people are just walking past him. He's like, he can't get to it for whatever reason it is. And I'm sitting there, I'm observing this. And I'm sitting like, why is no one helping him? Can't they see that they're capable of helping him? And they don't see him. They don't want to, like, it bothered me. And after a while, I went over there and I climbed up. This 9, 8, 9 year old kid, I climbed up to the top shelf because I couldn't reach it. And I grabbed the item for him. And when I got down the shelf, I just realized that I'm not like everyone here. In that moment, I just realized like I'm not like everyone here. How can all these people walk by this man who is needing help? Just needs one person to help. And I, the smallest, weakest person here, the only one that can see this and the only one that feels compelled to do it. And I have to risk myself to do it. I just felt very much alienated. And not like I disliked people. I had a hard time understanding how people process these things in their mind and were okay with it. And so as I continued in my journey, that always stuck with me of that I was somewhat different. I was somewhat a little bit off. And not only that, I experienced it in school because um, this is how I was. I was a kind of a quirky, goofy, really highly intelligent person, but I was, ADHD, so I was all over the place. I'd finish my work first in class and I'd be all over the place. And so as I continued in my growth and kind of looking into how and why people behave, of course, I chose a family that gave me an opportunity to really explore that too as well. Um, like Carla says, even Cole says that most of us choose a lesson of love the opportunity to love without anything in return. And it hurts. It's harsh in the beginning. And even it's harsh now in the relationships that I am in my marriage and other places too as well. That we have these situations that we set up for ourselves. If we truly look at them, they give us these huge opportunities if we're able to lean into it, to love in a situation that seems like we can't love in. You see? And the truth of what Quo and them always say is to look at love and see where it is in the moment. And I'm starting to realize the joke is that we are actually that love in that moment. You see? And so when we are faced with these difficulties, especially as we begin to, and I have a little more formalized talk, but as we get more into looking at our behavior, not from a position of right or wrong, but looking at a position of, am I being of service to others or am I serving myself? And to me, when I started looking at it from strictly that perspective of deducing it to the most hit this point that I could, right and wrong is really more of a perspective. And this is something that I pondered when I was probably around 18 years old. And I really felt strongly about it that right and wrong is about perspective. Because I would see in the world, I would see people would get their family members killed for whatever reason. And then they would go and they would act upon that. And they feel righteous in that. They feel damn right in doing so. And for them, that's right. However, I also realized that the family members that they would take that life from, who had nothing to do with it, they felt the same loss too. And that's right too as well. So then what's right or wrong, right? How do we go about trying to understand right and wrong when everyone has a perspective of this? And so I pondered this for quite some time. Um, and in that pondering, one of the things that came to me was I actually was sitting in meditation in my grandmother's backyard at the time. And funny thing is, I did not know that was meditation. I was actually just being a stoner. I was sitting out in the backyard. I told myself that I'm going to stay out in the backyard this whole summer and I'm going to pose this question because I'm a thinker, right? I'm going to think about this question until I get the answer. And the question is, why am I here? And that really probably is probably the beginning of my actual real conscious seeking was that time. And that time it could be kind of referenced to the matrix of the mind in a sense. And so at that time, I had really just this. If you guys know software or if you guys do programming, it's like I had a terminal with Pantheon or Rubix or whatever coding in it. But the potential for anything can be made. That's the matrix of the mind. All the apps, all the dependence, all those things that you need to develop whatever software that you need is there. However, it needs to be potentiated, right? There needs to be some type of interaction with this matrix. And so that's kind of where I'll begin kind of the formalized talking, right? So I'm beginning, excuse me. And so I'm sitting there in the summer and I'm every single day. Oh, one moment. Are you looking for Anthony? Um, I'll text him one moment and have on his call. So just come back in a moment and he'll be out, right? Um, so I'm sitting out there and I'm like, this is my mission. I'm gonna sit out here. I was growing herb at the time, so I had a little can, Christmas can. I had a big old can of herb. I'm gonna sit there for my little bowl and this is what I'm gonna do. And nothing happened for a good month too. Nothing happened. It was fun. I enjoyed myself, but I felt this calling to do it. And every day I'd go out there, and every day I'd sit my stone behind down for a good, really 4 or 5 hours, and I'd sit there with this one question in my mind and nothing else. Why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here, man? What is the purpose? And one day, like the software application finished downloading, it all came to me in a very amazing conversation in my mind. And it was very much tailored to my 18, 19-year-old consciousness. And really the conversation came to me as if you knew all and can see all, I mean, man, like knew every television show that ever came out, knew every person you're going to talk to, knew all of those potentials and knew the experience of it. It said, Anthony, wouldn't you be bored? I'm using a very basic way of describing it, but it said, wouldn't you be bored? I said, knowing all, seeing all, experiencing all. But I said, hell yeah, I'd be freaking bored. And so that voice in my head said, what better way than an omnipotent, infinite being to solve that boredom, but to separate itself into infinite pieces, with every single piece not knowing that it is part of a bigger piece, but it records every single angle of rotation in every single possible infinite pattern, infinitely. Do you think that'd be enough to stimulate maybe a little bit an infinite being? I said, you know what? It would be. He said, there's your answer. That's why you're here. I said, I was enlightened for a day. There's nothing that I was happy. There's nothing that no one could tell. You couldn't tell me nothing. I knew it. I could feel it. It was the answer. I did not read it in a book. It did not, was told to me. I suck it out. I sought it and I found it and I knew it was real. And 2, 3 days later, life hit me again. Maybe some with my girlfriend at the time, or Bill came up, and I was back to earth. And I never forgot about it, but was never as powerful that until I came across the law of one, right? And so we have kind of, if we look at the matrix of the mind, I'm just going to stay with the mind part as I'm kind of correlating this. As you study the matrix, as you study the archetypical mind, one thing that I found to be the best way to do it is to tell it as a story. And the reason why is because in Zen, if you guys don't know this, I've been practicing Zen for just as long. And in Zen, there's something called the 10 ox pictures, if you guys are aware of it. And these 10 pictures depict the process of enlightenment, right? And the way that they teach it is they teach it through allowing the student to simply observe these images and to understand through observing the images and through their own experience, the correlation there. Hence, as soon as I realized, like, oh, that's exactly what Ron and them did. This is just the same. It's a story. It's a story of the easiest or the most efficacious path to enlightenment. And so in the beginning, the student will be the matrix of the mind. It will be fully open, have all the potential. But as Ross said, potential for what? When he was talking about Jim, Jim said, I know I have this great potential, right? And Ross said, Jim knows he has great potential, but potential for what? Right? What is the potential for? Right? And the funny thing is, our teachers are very funny. The potential is to serve the creator. That's the potential. We seek through all these other methods and we don't realize in all that doing, we're just serving the creator in this very, as Ross said, this very erratic way because we don't know that we're doing it. We don't know that when I'm smoking a bowl, I'm really seeking this love of the creator. When I'm going out to the club, I'm trying to find the creator. When I'm caring and loving for someone else, I'm seeking the creator. When I love myself unconditionally at the behest of others, I'm seeking the creator. You see? That's the beautiful thing about the law of one is it illustrates the creator as something highly intelligent. The creator would not set up a situation in which things would not work for itself. Right? Where's the infinite intelligence in that? So therefore, there is no way that you cannot do what it is that you need to do. Because just in a very basic way, right now, as we sit here in infinite time and infinite space, there is no other West that will ever experience this time, this moment, this time-space matrix in the same way. And once you've experienced and recorded it, that will never, ever happen again. Therefore, you, Kent, Caroline, Ed, all of us, every single one of us are a infinite jewel because that recording of your experience cannot be duplicated. Even though we're in an infinite situation where infinite possibilities can occur, this one matrix, this one instant cannot be identically duplicated. It can happen again in a similar fashion, but not in the same emotional state, not in the same pattern, not in the same mathematical um, organization. So therefore, it's potentially the next, you right now may have the next equation for the creator to be able to experience the next octave. So that's why everything's so valuable. And that's why Ra and them did everything they could when the bombs were dropped to make sure that they were able to gather from the highest to the lowest every single mind, body, spirit complex and put it back together because it's invaluable. It's invaluable to the creator. It's something that is, we don't know what that information could hold. Okay. And so looking at it from that perspective, knowing that there's no wrong way to serve the creator, one then has to kind of think about this polarity thing, right? Because now we get kind of the next card, right? Which is the potentiator of the mind. The potentiator of the mind is polarity. Because when we have this matrix, right, with nothing taking place in it, it's only the fact that there is, as Ross said, before this creation, there was only the potential and that which was moved, right? There's only that which is observed and that which is moving, right? In other words, there's only polarity that was discovered before it. Now, this is the interesting thing that I started to understand is that in order for us to know or to experience anything, we have to know the antithesis of it, as Ross said. So as we sit here and we experience anything, and that's the two cards down, we'll get to that in a moment. But as we sit here and we have experience, the potentiator, the potential for experience is the fact that there is a polarity. Hence why, if you look at the card, you see the woman between the black and the white, right? It's the potential. The reason why I know, and speaking of that, the reason why I know of black is because of white. The reason why I know something is hot is because I'm aware of something cold, right? The reason why I'm angry is because of something that is not making me happy. The reason why I hate is because of a lack of love. Ah, polarity, right? It goes into what they're talking about, this 360-degree being that we are. We think that when we are happy at someone, that negates the anger. No, we're happy at them because the absence of anger. If we did not know anger, we would not truly know happiness. That's what Rob was talking about when the first creations were a monochrome experience. It's because the lack of polarity, the lack of the ability to truly have a differentiator between what is this and what is that. You see? And the purpose of the creation, as was taught to me by whoever that person was, so the creator could experience itself, to say it more eloquently, right? And to me, it was at the time, it was boredom, right? But put it more eloquently, the creator was looking to experience itself in new ways. And so the potential for these two seemingly different things, right, is how we then have what is then the next called catalyst, right? Because catalyst is the potential to have right or wrong, the potential to experience good or bad, right? But it's the interesting thing. If you look at the card, I kind of have it here, and Ra talks about it, you'll see in the card that, oh, darn it. Yeah, well, I can describe it. You guys can. I'll make sure we'll send this document to the group. But if you see the card, the woman is sitting on the chair. Her legs are facing to the left, and she's holding a bird in her left hand, right? And she's holding a crystal ball in the right. And the sun is encompassing her background. Now, how I interpret that card, looking at it from a perspective of Catalyst, knowing what we know. Remember, this is a story, right? And so we know that in the beginning, the student sets out, perfect, exactly where I'm at. And so if we just scroll up to the first card, I kind of describe this story that I'm telling. So when we start off as the matrix of the mind, right? If we kind of use that same philosophy of kind of this potential software in which we can, or put it like this, if you guys ever use like Adobe or use like a drawing program, the potential for you to draw anything is there, right? It's all the tools, all the gadgets, all the things are there. And that's the matrix of the mind. And so the seeker with his left, you see he's holding his right hand. And the right hand is the hand of positive. Anytime he's looking at the cards, left and right, male and female, they actually hold a really deep meaning. The right hand represents positivity, represents a outwardly flow, right? Or a radiant flow, or serving others. Where the left hand path will represent a attraction, a absorption, or serving oneself, right? Okay, those are the two ways that thought can expand. Either can expand in one way outwardly, or it can contract inwardly. That's it bifurcates from unity. That's really all it does. And so from this bifurcation, which I'm butchering the word, which Phoenix will help me out. I know Phoenix is good with words. But from the separation of two, right? So we go into the next card there. I'm glossing over this, guys, because we can spend a whole day on a card. But from that separation of those two, right? these two paths. So from unity, we have these two paths, right? And they're represented by the black and the white, the left and the right, the left and the left and the right, the yin and the yang, the up and the down. That is potential. Without that, there is just infinite experience. And if we scroll up a little bit more, right, as the seeker continues on, he's learning these things, right? He's learning that, okay, I understand now that everything that exists is actually unity, and that we experience it through these polarities of right and wrong, good and bad, but really all it is the creator. And so then we come to catalyst, right? And how do we interact with these polarities? How, when something comes at us, right? And this is interesting, everything is catalyst. Everything is catalyst. And that's kind of represented by the sun in the background. And the interesting thing is, from my experience, what I've started to experience is that all catalyst is neutral, meaning that it has no polarity to it in its essence. That we, as the students of this art, or students that seek it, we actually have the choice by the stories we tell ourselves about the catalyst that we experience. You see, so quickly, or something I've pondered and even talked about sometimes, is that you have maybe two people. You have a wealthy individual with the means and the resources to do things, and we have someone that does not have those same resources. They're getting to their jobs or destination, and these both individuals experience a flattening of a tire, right? But even though the wealthy man has the ability, the means, the resources to do so, he's perturbed, he's angry, he's frustrated, he's impatient, and therefore that experience is that way for him. Even though he has all the resources, we foolishly think because of resources that things will make us happy. But right, he thinks these things and he goes about having a terrible day. Meanwhile, the poor individual, maybe he's used to this like I am. The first time my tire's flat and I can't afford it, tries a different approach. Maybe use that opportunity, calls it a job, lets them know they're gonna be a little bit late. Maybe I'll walk to work. Sees the sun, sees the stars, or whatever it is. It has a beautiful experience because of it. Now they both had a similar experience. It's just about the story, and I'm being very general here, but you can apply the same logic to anything. You know, more personally, if you have a son, daughter, right? These loving little beings, they require things of us all the time, and really the response to it should be love all the time. But we are human and we err, right? And so there's times when our children may do something, doing something that like knocking over a glass of water, and maybe because of the story you tell yourself in your mind, why are you knocking over water again, right? There's all this anger, there's all this frustration. Maybe another parent in the same situation has that same experience. And the story or the way they discipline themselves in that moment, we all err. The story they tell themselves is different. And it's a mistake. Oh, you silly kid, you knocked over the water again. Go get a paper cup. But when we pursue this on a regular basis, we start realizing that every moment presents a choice. Right? And so let's move up to the next one. And so that brings us kind of to one thing I want to bring. Can you go down real quick? One thing I really want to highlight was that is kind of represented by the sun there. The fact that catalyst is neutral. It happens to the left and the right hand path equally. It does not choose what side it carries for. So when you're sitting here like I was earlier today, having a little bit of a tension with my wife, it feels like the freaking universe, right, is working against you. But in that moment, that same frustration and anger that I had because I felt like I was not heard, I felt like I was not seen, I could also tell myself a different story at that time, right? And that's the key in this kind of, at least what I've heard that keeps me on the path, is when I find that I do err, to sit down honestly with myself and to analyze those things and to question those things and to dive deep into it. Not in a way that's like, oh, which I do often. I'm not the best at it, but even that is better than nothing. But to say, hey, what the hell is going on? Why are you feeling this way? Why are you responding that way? And what's the reason for that? Right? Because it's not the environment, it's not the other self behavior, but it's what the story I tell myself about this behavior that is the reason I'm responding. And I can choose to say, this is the creator. No matter how distorted my wife may, or my dad or mom or whoever that other person is, no matter how distorted that their physical apparatus may be, that's the creator. And I could respond in that way. And God, it's fucking hard. because the illusion is made that way to be hard. It's designed to do that. Because I've learned it's only really through suffering, in a sense, that we actually truly appreciate things that we earn. And most of us have experienced that, right? We learned when I was managing sales, it's something that a philosophy that you kind of learn is that people will work 10 times harder to hold on to $1,000 than they will to go pursue $1,000 or any amount of money. Right? And so it's the suffering, it's the fact that, oh, dang, I got to get out there and get it. It's the angst. It's that why. It's really, for me, it's always been that why. Why do people act this way? Why does it seem this way? Why am I here? Why? Because I feel the love. I feel that there's something deeper to it, right? So then we can. So that's what you see here. And then to point out something too as well, as she's sitting there and she's holding the. If you kind of reverse, it'd be the yeah. So as she's sitting there holding the bird is in the left hand, right? And that represents the world. Remember, left hand is negativity. It is absorption. So naturally, you see how her body's there. We always think that catalyst naturally is a negative thing. That's why she's sitting that way, and that's why our gaze is upon the bird. But interestingly, if you look deeper at it, the bird is pointing towards the right hand path. The bird is directing and pointing us. Turn your head to, as Ross said, the longer gaze or the I'm forgetting the exact wording, but something to the point of the path that takes longer to receive the reward, right? And in that, there's much, much more fruit in that. Then you get to a whole bunch more stuff too in this. The eyes on the box. The box represents the illusion which she sits upon. The crystal ball for me represents seeking of wisdom, and that seeking of wisdom is done in the right hand, in the right held in the right hand. So seeking wisdom with compassion. Um, the left hand shows that the attraction, the fluttering, the flickering of this bird, it distracts you because you think all these things that are negatively happening to you are coming from this negative path. But if you look deeper at the catalyst, you'll see that the truth is in serving others. So continue down. Our polarity. These cards are geared or are to a student of the positive path, but all these things can be applied to the negative path as well. And that's something that took me a long time to understand. And I'll touch on it here briefly since I'm bringing it up, is that it takes a long time to respect the negative path because it's very challenging to understand that someone, some other self, could understand all of these things and see it as clearly and possibly, and they should actually understand it more clearly than we do because of the nature of how much they have to polarize. And yet still, in the light of that, choose that path. And so what I kind of realized in looking at my own life, look at my own self, right? For one, the creator needs this. You can just look at it from that perspective. Mathematically, it must take place. Theoretically, it must take place. In order for the creator to experience all things, these things must take place. So for some people, that can bring, for me, it didn't, but it was the first step, right, to understanding it. But probably to me, the most idyllic negative entity is Thanos. A lot of people, being myself in the beginning of the path, we think as negativity, like what I was saying, as something of this bang, 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 shoot him up, bang, bang, right? And I'm going to kill you, stab you. I'm this bad thug. I've learned in my own life, those people are service to others who are hurt. Very rarely there's someone who's truly polarized negatively. If they're doing it at the level that we're doing it here, are they getting caught by the police? Are they losing their temper? Are they getting angry? Remember, in order to polarize on that path, all for us, we must accept all things that come into our experience. All things must be accepted, balanced, and loved. Simple as that. Simple but hard. For them, all things must be controlled. Simple as that. And so, if they are fully aware of the octaves, fully aware of the transitions, fully aware of what the creator is, excuse my language, you're like, fuck it, why not? Why not? Why not do whatever the heck I want to do because it feels good? I'm just going to do it for just existing. And the creator's going to love me either way. And that's why it's the path that is not, right? But it's not as, I should say, it is actually as simple as that. You know, we, as and with our minds, we try to complicate these things. The only response, as Ross said, is love. As simple as that is, it's actually the most complicated equation that you could try to work out. Every situation, so someone comes and spits in my face, love. Someone comes and gives me a kiss, love. Someone comes and robs me, love, love. But what about love? And the mind is so baffled by the simplicity of it. That's why that's why all of them say the same thing. We speak the same thing to you. That's ever and always the same. And that is love. But because of our third density mind, we have to grapple with something. Because the idea that every response is this one response, to us in the situation can be very much challenging, right? And that kind of brings us to the experience, right? Now that we understand, and I know we're losing time here, but on the seeking, right? If as we're growing through this journey, we're learning these things. We understand that, okay, there's this potential for me to do something. There's a potential for me to seek. There's a potential for me to learn something, right? And why is there this potential? Well, everything that I experience is this polarity. There's right and wrong, and there's good or bad. We perceive it as this, but really, there's only unity. And from this unity is this polarity that happens, and all these things and all these events take place. But really, it's only unity. And then from these potential things, we have experience, or we have, excuse me, catalyst. We have the catalyst that then creates the experience, because the experience is what the story is that we tell ourselves. I'm sorry, I meant to tell you that. The experience is the story that we tell ourselves about the catalyst in which we experience. And so what you see here in the particular card, once again, wisdom, right, is in the right hand, being sought, right? But where's this individual gaze? They say it's a woman. I don't know if it's a woman or a man, but the individual's gaze is to the left, right? Once again, still because all the experience, most of our experience, we consider it as, at least for me, I feel like I'm walking through 3 feet of water all the time. It's just so, right? We feel it because of the stories we tell ourselves. And so that kind of describes this in the picture. The man is facing left and has this kind of angled dress in a sense that's pointed out. It's kind of protecting itself from this left hand side, right? And if you notice, these cards are very detailed. We spend a lot of time with them. You'll notice that she or he is closer to the left hand side, right? Because we want these things. We long and gravitate towards gathering and accumulating these materials and these wealth to protect ourselves from this steaming world, right? And even in this picture, you can even see the individuals fully get the clothing and all that stuff is fully on, right? This person's fully kind of dressed up. Where in other pictures, you'll see people have different amount of clothing on. And then also too, it took me a long time to come across this, but when you guys see 90-degree angles within the picture, well, which is like maybe once or something like that, it represents a transformation, right? So these are different points in the journey where you'll start to see like signals to the next stage or the next kind of growth here. So once you start understanding that experience is because of all the things we talked about earlier, then the next card, if you just scroll up, I know we're running low on time, it's a significator, right? Because now life has significance. If from a scientific perspective, the significator is that which is acted upon, right? I think so. I looked it up one time, nonetheless. But at this point, we've actually are consciously kind of aware of the process, right? We understand the matrix of the mind. We understand our potential. We understand we have this potential. We're seeking it. We're trying to understand it, and we understand that the reason why we have kind of this experience is not because things are wrong or right, good or bad, but because there's unity. And from unity comes this polarity, this right or wrong, right? And from polarity comes this opportunity to have information or have catalyst. Because catalyst is something that causes change without itself being changed. right? So we have this catalyst that then acts upon, right, this individual. And because of it acting upon it, the individual tells himself or herself these experiences, and that is the experience card, right? So really what I'm saying is all these things that we experience are just the stories, are these dancing thoughts in this ballroom that we find ourselves in. And so at that point, we then become the significator because now we understand that what takes place in our lives is because of the actions that we take upon them. And so if you see the sword now, the sword of wisdom is in the left hand, and it's not pointed at someone, it's not going to battle, it's boom, straight. He's standing upon his wisdom. The wisdom is now something that is not something that is controlling him, but something he uses to serve others, right? And the right hand in a gesture, usually a sign of humbleness, a sign of compassion or respect is in that gesture, right? And the left, and even though he's still looking to the left, he's looking to the left with his head held up high and a full kind of understanding of that. And if you notice too, as well, the pillars, they're no longer black and white because he sees through what truly is unity. There's no need for the black and white anymore. And something that's awesome too, you see above him, what is that? The wings. Right? Communication then can be then taken up with that higher self, the ability to start to have that understanding of that type of guidance. Right? Scrub, I'll kind of go through the last few cards here real quick. And so at that point, the ability then to transform, to fully understand the power of the mind is there. And that's kind of represented by the prostitute and the virgin. And the interesting thing that Rob points out is how he's holding these two individuals. For one, they're both on one path, the left, and both on one's on the right hand path. And he's on the fork of the road with his hands like this. If both were to go forward, what would happen? Not a damn thing. He's stuck there. Right? And so we have this mentality of how we treat the mind, right? One mentality is of a virgin. I'm going to greet my subconscious. I'm going to bring it flowers. I'm going to love myself and I'm going to court it and hold it up, right? We're getting to the point where choice is fully realized. And this is the transformation. Or do we choose, right, to prostitute the mind, to make it our slave, to make it do our bidding, right? Because in any path, whether it's the choice to serve others or the choice to serve yourself, it both begins, as Wes was talking, with the self, right? The negative path, the first thing they do is full control over themselves. I find that most people who are truly on that path, they're very athletic, they're very disciplined, right? And also, too, they don't ask for help. There's no higher self on the negative path. You remember, you fully aware of all these things, but you are Thanos. You're the better God. You're the more wiser God. You're the one, like Loki says, they are privileged to have me rule them. So without my wisdom, without my understanding, without my calculative abilities, these poor hopeless beings wouldn't even make it to the end of the day. They should be thanking me. This is the negative attitude, right? And they're right. They're the creator too as well. That's a challenging thing to really start to get into yourself and understand. But the beautiful thing about it is there's much power in it for us on the positive side. Because the interesting thing about the negative side, is you realize it, is they can't truly create something of their own. They can only absorb and take. So if you don't have those things in it, in which they can then use and take, they have no power. That's why Ross says your greatest protection is love. If you guys have ever dealt with a bully, the best thing to do is sincerely, not from a place of, I'm going to pretend to do it, but sincerely, truly accept what they're saying. Truly laugh at it, truly see it. And actually, it happened to me when I had this kid that was bullying me really bad, and this was messing with me all the time. And I remember coming from a all white school to a black school, and I was kind of this goofy black kid. I didn't really get along with everyone. Everyone would tease me because I dressed different, talked different. And this kid just teased me all the time. I remember him picking me up. I remember his mother picking him up, and his mother looked bad, man. Like she was on drugs. like even high when she got there, and I just felt so much compassion for him, right? And after that, every time he teased me, every time he talked to me, I just saw his mother. I just never bothered me again. Slowly but surely, he just never. There was no reaction. There was no need. I was like, man, your mom's on fucking drugs, bro. Like I'm not. Like there's no. Like I see why you're fucking upset. Like I have no reason to hate you or be angry with you, right? And so I wasn't. It's no fun anymore, right? It's no fun to them. There's no response. There's no yin and yang or back and forth, and that's what they need. So love is always the best response. It's the hardest response. So then you have to make kind of the choice. And then when you finally solidified, okay, I'm going to do my best that every thought in my mind, I'm going to treat like this virgin. I'm going to treat like this maiden. I'm going to take up this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk that path. I'm going to let go of the other one. And I'm going to walk. The same thing with the negative one. So the thing is, these cards apply to the negative path as well. But because they come from raw, they are tuned towards our path. But the negative information is there too as well. It's also described in the fox or the genie type entity, right? The negative path. If you choose the negative path is only protected by the level of negativity in which you're able to maintain, right? The ability, how cunning, how much more ahead of the game of the next person can you be? Hence represented by this arrow. So if you choose this path, you're choosing a path that must be constantly on your guard, constantly at competition, constantly at that. And there's people who as much as we love to serve others, they love that, right? Right? But it's the creator. And so if we can, now that we made kind of this transformation, it's in our being. Like we know that we want to do this. We drop the prostitute, we drop the virgin, whatever that choice is, it's both fine. If we scroll up to the next card, you guys don't mind staying with me for a few more moments. Now we are on the great way, right? Because there's no longer there's no question about it. Someone comes to me, I need to love. If I miss that, I have to work on it. Not that you're going to do it, not that it's going to happen, but you have in it in your heart, you've made the choice in a sense. You haven't really made it yet. It's a little further yet. You've decided in yourself, something in yourself that you're going to stand on this. Right? Not necessarily. This is a beautiful thing that I like what Rodnam said is we don't on the positive side we don't fight. We stand for things. We stand in the light and we stand there, right? And we hold it. And so that kind of is represented again in a similar image, right? And so now we're on this great way where before we kind of had these entities up on the deck with us, right? And we had kind of those kind of components that were there too as well. Now you see a little bit more openness, right? Okay, and you still see the sword in the left hand, right? But if you notice, it's above. It wasn't the other card. It's above the kind of entities that are there that kind of represent these. In my opinion, these are all my opinions. The left hand nature of ourselves. And so through wisdom and through wisdom, he's been able to control that, right? Through wisdom, through understanding, through looking at the mind, he's able to control those parts of the body, the parts of the negative thoughts, and have dominion over them, right? And we were just getting that power too back on the other card, but now it's fully realized. And if you notice something different that has not happened before in the other cards, is that crystal ball now illuminates itself. It's lit with compassion, right? And also too, that ball represents wisdom in a sense too as well, but that wisdom's held in the right hand, right? And then I forget what the name of that symbol is on the chest, but it means something to the point of a transformation, that 90-degree angle. So something I forget the name of it. They talk about it too as well. Um, but yeah, so then you've made the choice. You are out on the great way in a sense. You're looking for how to be of service. How is it that I'm going to serve? I know this potential is to be of service to the creator. I know that I want to serve the creator in these one or two ways. For us, everyone knows we all want to serve the creator by serving others, but how? I know what it is. I know how I'm going to do it. I got to find it. I'm on that great way. Then we scroll up, and I'm paraphrasing all this stuff, guys. I'm kind of giving you guys the the what's that yellow book that you guys see, like the wiki, the dummy's guide to the archetypical mind. I'm just going, you guys giving you like a crash course because um, the same pattern happens with the body because the body, as the mind is developing, right, the body's developing too. And so, what's the body going through, and how do you manage the body? And same thing with the spirit, which is the hardest one, at least for me to dive into because it is so ephemeral. It's hard to grasp For one, these cards are best sought to and understood through experience. So until I was able to have enough attempts at trying to do a lot of the work that Raw talks about like balancing my thoughts, did I start to really dive into having a lot of these experiences. When I was starting to spend days dedicated to balancing my thoughts until I ran out of the juice to do it, because doing it, you will run out of juice. I warn everyone. When you set on that path where Raw says every single thought, you got to find, first of all, what the heck does that mean? Because you'll get obsessive with it if you like me, to the point where, like me, is that a thought that I have to balance? Is it like me, like you? It gets crazy. Or do you only balance the thoughts that are like um really emotional? And that's what I really learned. I learned you really start to balance the thoughts that resonate with you throughout the day. You don't necessarily have to balance every single thought that comes into your mind. And I did that for some time, and I can only sustain that type of thinking for maybe 3 days at the most. That's why I like, fuck this shit. I can't do it anymore. I see the benefit in it, but I'm literally just, I it's so hard, because you're hard on yourself, right? Because you know that there's potential. You find a little success with it, like, oh, that's what teaching them is talking about. That's what I call it. But that's what teaching them is talking about. Oh yeah, I do see that. Okay, the next moment, like that, I lost it. Right? But I'm learning that's part of the journey. But now we're here though, right? We fully dedicated ourselves, right? And this is something that interesting when I was thinking about kind of what I was going to say in this part. I was realizing that in a sense, to do this is to die to the ideas of what it is that you had, and there is no turning back. And it's said it shows in the card, because what I mean by that is to move forward. There's a crocodile there, right? There's darkness on the path. You see a little bit there, right? And even he is looking away from it, like, shit, am I making the right choice here? Right? But at this point in the journey, you can't go back. It's not even possible. It's like the Mario game. It's like the freaking thing is moving forward. You can't go back even if you try. There is no throw me back in the matrix to make sure the steak tastes like steak anymore. That's not an option anymore. You're aware of these things fully and truly. And so it's death to go forward, and it's death to go backwards. So what do we do? Right? We die to the moment. We have faith, right? We have faith that what is true is not this, right? We should have learned this, right? According to the cards. That's why I beat myself up so much. We should have learned this by now, right? That these things that we experience are not what they seem. They happen because of this potential of the mind to have all of this infinite potential. And this potential actually comes to life because of these two choices that exist in everything, right and wrong, yin and yang, polarity, really serving others, serving yourself, or love, hate, whatever you want to picture it. And from this love and this hate, right, we have the ability to then have experience. Our excuse me, catalyst is impressed upon the individual. And because of the catalyst and the potential, we have experience. Right? And then we continue on with this understanding, right? And we grow, we continue to transform, and we bloom. And now we finally at this point where I only can seek the creator. And to do so means I have to die in a way to the ideas, to the things that really are holding us back. Really, they're there to help us, actually, not hold us back. Really, the things that, if we learn to look at them correctly, will allow us to grow. And then also, too, die to the idea of going backwards, right? And so then we sit really just in the love of the creator, because that's truly all there is. There really is nothing more than that. And really, there's nothing that can harm that. There's no dying. There's no strife. I guess that I know on that, and that's something that I remembered as a kid. I don't know if you guys ever did, but that's something that when and this came to my mind. That's something that still is a lingering thought in my mind. Is that remembering of something more harmonious, right? That resting with the creator, that choice is to serve, that not wanting, as in Buddhism, that not desiring more, and that not averting a bad experience, but simply, as Eckhart Tolle said, being in now.
Are you ready to
I
open
know
it
that.
up for, yeah, are you ready to open it up for questions and discussion?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm sorry I went long. I realized I went
Yeah,
long.
yeah. No,
Right.
it's good. It's great. It's great. Yeah.
But I'm here to talk as long as you guys need me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. Um, Anybody wants to comment or ask a question?
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah. Thank
Most
you.
welcome.
Thank
I
you.
really value the dedication that you exhibit in your life, and then that you're willing to share your experience.
Yeah.
I,
It was
I
great. Yeah.
I don't get to
Yeah.
do it too
Great.
often, so that's why I love. I mean, if you guys ever see me, you can't know. If you guys see me in person, I'll talk a hole in your head because I don't get an opportunity in my day-to-day life because no one in my um, family or anyone in my immediate vicinity talks about this stuff. So I keep it all bottled up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's good for you guys to give to you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. It was great to get an overview of the cards too.
Yeah, yeah, I've been waiting for
Yeah.
its opportunity to present that understanding, and I haven't had an opportunity to do it yet. So I'm glad. And I can do the same thing with the body and the mind. I mean, excuse me, body
Yeah.
and spirit. And I would like to probably do it in a way that we can really dedicate to it. But that's probably the best way to kind of look at it because that came to me today too as well when I was sitting in meditation. You know, I called the Confederation Teach. So I'm sitting there like asking Teach like, all right, guys, you know how I do. I'm not gonna it's on you guys to tell me what the hell I need to say because I just study this stuff so you guys can help and
Yeah.
have it there if you guys need it. And so
Yeah.
that kind of came to my mind as oh yeah, polarity. Oh the cards. Oh, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, duh, the lesson plan's already been given to me by the teacher. I'm just gonna follow it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
All right. Any comments or questions?
yeah, jump in, Phoenix.
hey buddy.
Phoenix.
That was great. It was great hearing your perspective. I'm actually going to ask about kind of that last thing you said, that you said that your immediate family, you don't really have any individuals that talk or in this detail. And I don't know, I've met someone more knowledgeable in every channeling and materials as you. And so kind of how do you navigate that in your personal life and your shared relationships that
Mm.
I'm sure are deeply meaningful with a lot of love, but may not necessarily be materially based a lot on sharing material teachings specifically.
It's challenging because I have to there's infringement that can take place. Believe it or not, I didn't realize that. Because I was under the impression I read somewhere in the material that really can't infringe on third density of the third densities. But later on, I read and have experienced. For example, I remember talking to a buddy because for one, because this is me. Like I don't talk about anything else because it's all I study. So I'm not going to sit there and talk to you about sports or talk to you about anything like that. Like I'm not the guy in the office that does that, and that's probably why I'm not in the office all the time. But anyways, I'm not that guy. And so the challenging thing for me is not, overwhelming people. And I've had coworkers that I've gone to afterward, barbecue, smoking a joint with them, and this is what I'm talking about. And I've had my buddy look at me. He said, when he grabbed the joint from my hand, he said, "Listen, man, I don't want to fucking think about that type of shit right now, man. I just got off work." And the sound, I realized I was like, "Oh, wow." Because when you pose these types of these logical arguments that resonate with people because there's truth in them and they're not ready for it. And then you're just sitting there just talking your head off like everyone loves talking about this stuff. Some people may not be ready to hear it. You may be dropping, or infringing on someone that, later on they're a little bit, it's a stumbling block for them. It can be. You may
Mhm.
turn them off like, I don't ever want to look at this freaking wild one chicken thing Anthony said. It's so corny, bro. I don't want to look at that. You know, you may not know what you're doing. When the best thing to do is always just wait for them to ask. I've learned that later on in my life because even my wife, she's a devout Christian. So I have to be very mindful of what I say and how I say it because I'm very passionate about it. And I can present a pretty logical argument. And it can be it can put people in a position where they feel they may need to defend themselves. Um, and that's something I try to steer away with because that's not mine. Like I tell my wife, if I'm right, everyone's right. Like if my philosophy is right, you're good. Like Jesus is real. Like he's the shit. Like it's all good. Like you don't have to worry about nothing. Like I'm with you. Like there's nothing about what I'm believing in or what I'm focused on that has any threat to you. Matter of fact, if I'm right, it's even better for you. Like if you're right, some of us are going to a dark place. Like So that's kind of how I think about it. And so really like, and you guys know, I do all my meditation outside. That's the reason why I do that. When I started doing Zen and stuff like that, because Christian household, you know, to doing this fuddy-duddy Eastern thing, you know. And so I've been really respectful about it, but it's forced me to really, just really do it inwardly. I mean, I guess I talk with them. I guess I talk with the Confederation a lot. I try to do it in a healthy way. They don't ever talk back to me, but I find myself monologuing a lot to them because I don't have that, until I get here.
Yeah.
They do listen. They will respond in ways that are so subtle. It's frustrating, so fucking frustrating. But they're there. They're always there for us. So,
I can make a comment if nobody has a question.
Oh, I do.
You do? Okay,
Yeah,
Wes, go ahead.
just back to Phoenix. I'm curious what your experience is of that same question.
Oh, I think thanks Wes for asking. I think when I first discovered certain principles that I thought were so inclusive for unity, I got very excited to
mhm.
share. And I think like I remember writing once, it was this haiku meditation where I just was like, a lasso of love still makes people kind of run away, no matter what's made of a lasso. It's kind of controlling. And so I have people who are close in my life who I think practice a lot of the principles that we share here and having to navigate their curiosity and sometimes the initial when they're curious and you're first kind of speaking about what you believe, how sometimes that, even though you are saying it in such a loving, accepting manner, can seem because it's counter to what believing. And so sometimes not only waiting until they ask, I've found the more I sit with material inwardly is to just very much allow anyone to come to you. And so it sounds like you've really shared that experience. And I really find a lot of value of being close to people who may hold religious beliefs that are different from ours, even though we kind of think, well, they're quite similar,
Oh
allowing
yeah,
others to have to
I love it. I like.
different.
I have literally Jehovah Witnesses that come by and Mormons, and I come by and I literally will sit down and I've meditated with them. I'm like, hey, if you want it, I'll now listen to what you guys have to say, but this is what I do, you know. I've always shared that with them, and I tell them straight up when they come out my door, I respect you guys. The fact that you guys are willing to seek and knock on people's door because of this love you feel for the Creator. Know that that same love is what I seek. We may call it when in the world I call it Buddhism because that's the reason why I practice Buddhism because I found it to be I'm a Zen Buddhist. I find that to be very much. I could actually do another talk about just Zen specifically and the correlations with the law of one. I find they pair themselves very well. But I use that as kind of the honest cover story for my law of one practice because I could literally practice everything in Zen and it would align, you know, pretty much exactly with the law of one material. Especially the main thing about it that aligns most is the meditation. One thing about Zen is the whole. I always tell people if you find a true Zen teacher, they will not speak a sutra to you, hand you a book until you meditate for at least 5 years. Like a good Zen teacher, sit your butt on the cushion for 5 years, then come talk to me about your questions. And same thing with that's the same thing that if, as you guys studied the channel material or even raw, the only this thing that tripped me out when I went to when I started going to the events. When I started going, it was 3 years before the pandemic happened. So I had the privilege of going to Jim's house and there for 3 years in a row. And when I got there, and this is very. This is the reason why I love Law of One, but also too, it was very surreal to me. When I got there, I'm like, okay, finally, some people that study this stuff as much as I do. These are the people that the information it came through. These guys got to know it. They got to know it. I'm sitting there talking to Jim. Jim's like, I don't remember at all what that happened that day. Like, what? He's like, yeah,
Okay.
I would tell him all these situations and tell us, he's like, oh, yeah, I do remember that. Oh, yeah, that's true. And literally, Jim was like, Anthony, you like the LNL encyclopedia. Because I realized at that point, and to me, it became very real. Like, I think Gary and Trish are doing it now. This stuff comes through them. It's not like a fabrication, right? You know, they're regular people, you know, and Jim is such a regular guy. I love him. He's like literally like the spiritual lighthouse from our planet. And this guy is like the most regular dude, you know, kind-hearted, regular dude. And and so the first year I go out there, I'm bending ears and I'm just blasting everyone. I'm meet Gary. I'm love. This is my home, right? Um, and the second year I go out there, I'm like, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm living in the basement. I'm coming out for a week. I'm putting up chairs and doing whatever. Like, please let me stay there. And then, of course, Jim, he was kind enough to let me do that. And then after that, the next year I did the same. And unfortunately, the pandemic happened. And I haven't been able to get back out there, and some financial things happened. But that was actually the very it just solidified it for me. Like, for one, this is my family. The fact that I study this stuff and it's just in me to do it. I'm compelled. Like I said, like sports, like people like watching sports. I like listening to the material. I don't know why. It's what I do. And then to find out that the people who are channeling it, they're just really the channels. It was amazing, right? And I had some other experiences there, like literally, like there's fairies and all kinds of stuff in that house, and all kinds of magical things happen at that place if you have an eye to see it. And I've had some. Yeah, I know this. I know I said I've done this. This is probably one of my newer experiential experiences. So, there, the last time I went out there, coming up to that, like a week before, even before that, probably like 2 years. I have a picture. I'll send you Ed after the or Kent and West. I probably Ed for it. I'll send you the picture afterwards. But I was in meditation, and this great horned owl was on my neighbor's roof, on the apex of the roof, in the rain, hooting at me. Right? Because I'm in like this little tent, like this big I had a covered area in my backyard. I'm sitting there in meditation. I mean, for a good 10 minutes, I'm like, what the hell is it? Eventually I get up, the bell rings. I get up and the owl's still there, looking dead at me in the rain. Like, when I send you the picture, if you hold the button down, you'll see the rain going down. And just hoot, and long enough for me to go tell my wife, come here, there's an owl. For 2 years, randomly, this owl would hoot. I go out in meditation. I would respond to my thoughts. Like, is this? Did you hear what I'm saying? Hoo hoo. Like, it was that intense. That's why it was very much an multiple initiation experiences that were kind of highlighted by this experience with an owl. Actually, there's an interesting book called UFOs, Owls, and Something that I found at the same time, which is a person talks about all these experiences they had with UFOs and owls. Freaking weird, interesting, archetypical animal. And so I'm at Jim's house. I'm telling Jim this. And every morning, and this is one thing I was reason the catalyst for the conversation is when I got to the L&L group, I'm like, oh, everyone here is meditators. Everyone loves to meditate, right? No one meditated like that. Jim is the only one. Jim was the only one. I was thinking, okay, when I get there, I'm going to do a talk on meditation because everyone's going to want to meditate. No, everyone wants to do what we're doing here. Everyone wants just natural human stuff, right? And but Jim, just like me, Jim's 4 o'clock in the morning meditating. So I was like, all right, Jim, this awesome, perfect. I get to meditate with freaking Jim every morning. Like, what are you talking about? So, and then the thing about Jim is he's like starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, bet that's time I start in the morning, right? And Jim's like, I'm like, Jim, how do I get to how I know that you're up? He's like, I don't ever lock my front door. I'm like, you're fucking awesome. You don't ever lock your front door. Duh, right? Because you service to others. Why would you lock your door? Makes so much sense, right? And so we're out there. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Jim, every morning I was out there, like he'd make this little granola bowl thing for himself, and he'd make me one too as well. And he would get his morning routine. And I'm telling him about this owl, and then he walks outside, and the owl starts hooting. And Jim's like, Anthony, I think your friend's here. I'm like, what? I go outside and literally, hoo, hoo, hoo. That was day one of the retreat. The next morning, same
And
exact
hey,
time, me and Jim go
I want to be
outside.
sure to leave time for other people's comments or questions
I'm
too.
sorry. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
want to finish your
I know
story?
this. I know this. I know this. Al came up 2 more days. On the last day, in the morning, when Jim does when we do the banishing ritual, in the morning, the sun had already rose. 3 owls were there. Me and Jim did the ritual together. The owls encircle. Jim can tell you the story. The owls encirculated us and were hooting, hoo, 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 as me and him were doing the banishing ritual. Right when we ended the banishing ritual, the owls sound stopped. And me and Jim looked at each other, and Jim was like, I have goosebumps. I was like, I do too. And Jim was like, that is the most intense I've ever felt during doing that ritual. I was like, me too. So that's probably one of the newest experiences. I'm sorry. I'm go.
That's amazing. Wow.
You have a lot. You have a lot to share. I love it.
Yeah.
I can go for I go forever, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know I've already gone over time. It's already 20 minutes over. I think um I think the kids
I
are
just had one
yeah.
quick comment, but I very much appreciate what you brought to the table here. This was beautiful and insightful and impactful, and very relevant. So I find even in some spiritual communities, they don't understand law of one either. So it's a very niche little, little group. But I do love the point of view or the emphasis on the stories that we tell, and that is truly, really to me, that is the service to others' path. It's how I frame my life experiences, and what lens am I looking at these catalysts through. And just yesterday, I was having a conversation with somebody, and I started to catch myself saying some story in like a negative way, and it was like, but you know what, the universe gifted me with XYZ, and I finished the story like this because I'm like, but I love the fact that in the moment, as I started to verbalize this, I caught like higher self going, Caroline, it's the story you tell. It is the story you tell. So I come back sometimes to quotes from A Course in Miracles because I've done quite a bit of the course, but there's a beautiful line that says there's no hierarchy in illusion, and I try to kind of think about that too in the framework of like telling a story. There is no hierarchy in illusion, period. And so I felt like I really resonated with your presentation in that particular quote from the course. But I love your story, love your path, and I appreciate you bringing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ross says it too. Ross says that the heart opposes, or the heart negates no one. The open heart is loving everyone, so there's no room for that. And that's also too on the path of positivity. We accept all, because if we start to pick and choose, right, and we start to have these desires and this, and not that we don't have preferences, and not that we don't have a direction in which we point the compass that we move towards, is how much validity or how much value we put into the outcome, right? I can pursue an outcome. I can pursue being of service to others, but to be attached to the ending as if I got to make it this certain way, the story, right? That's where in Buddhism we learn, in other practices, is the story, right? I have to have it this way. I got to grasp it this way. I got to avert this way. But as Eckhart Tolle says, it's just the power of now. It's now. It's being. That's all.
Yeah.
Very intentional, but the fruit is very juicy and very sweet.
And the intent is all we're ever judged on. And I mean, the only person judging us is ourselves. And so that is the key. It's not the action, because we could be a 5-year-old child and we can run out the door and say, I'm going to hug every person that I meet. And we can meet someone that says, get away from me, little freaking kid. And we can meet a person that says, I love you. And meet another kid that, this kid sexually harassed me. Every person, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, could think that about that kid. And that kid only thought was, I'm going to go hug every person I see. And that's the third density that we live in. And so that's just the reality of it. And no matter what our actions are, we can't judge actions. We can't judge other people in actions. That's the other part that's hard. We can't judge them on their actions, because they're doing the exact same thing. They're moving in their being, and they're literally, the hardest thing for me to realize is that no one knows the better thing and does the other. Does it make no one, you can even audit yourself. No one goes, right now it feels better, more logical, and it's better to go right, but I'm going to do the left thing. No, it's more of a thing of the right hand thing. Oh, that looks good, but then we tell ourselves a story, or we have some negotiation with ourselves, or we have some fear, some trepidation, and then we kind of stumble across it, and then we kind of make this kind of weird, erratic choice, right? Right. If we really kind of, as Eckhart Tolle said, in our pain body, in a sense, we're really in that place, right? And there's some people that state of awareness never goes beyond that. All they know is the cooling of themselves. And everything that happens is not them. It's these freaking other things that are happening to them. And it's you, and it's you, and it's you, and it's you. And they live in this world of sleep, in a sense, because the truth is, they have, and that's the hardest thing, everything that happens to us is simply a story that we tell ourselves. Like I said, it's simply neutral. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
Mhm.
Ken, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I was just going to say that one thing I really appreciated was when you said all things on the positive path, all things must be accepted, balanced, and loved. And on the negative path, all things must be controlled. Yeah, something I made note of. I mean, you said so. You said so many good things.
I feel for them too. Could think about that though. Could you do that? I couldn't. Every moment of your day, like, okay, I got to make sure what's my wife gonna do today? Where's she going? What's my kid gonna do today? Okay, I'm 4 or 5 steps ahead of that. What are my employees gonna do today? I know I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna move these pieces around. I'm gonna tell you that. And when you talk to me, okay, this person. This is the crazy thing is they're negative about that. You have to be somewhat psychic. You have to be somewhat in tune because you're able to read people and you manipulate them for
Right.
your own benefit.
Yeah.
You know yourself well enough. You control yourself so good.
Mhm.
Manipulate and lie to yourself so well that you can manipulate and lie to others. We love ourselves and accept ourselves so much that we can accept all others. And at the
So
end of
we
the day, we're
can,
both distorted. We're both distorted because it's just the creator.
Mm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
All right, everyone. I can tell by the vibe and also too my children in there that it is time to wrap it up. And we're also
Yeah.
compassionate. We probably could have dropped off about 10 minutes ago. But I love you all. I'm always here if you guys need me. Hit me on the Telegram. I'd love to talk with anyone if you guys need anything. I'm here.
Yeah.
Literally, you're being of service to me by allowing me to talk because I don't have anyone else to talk to. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Yeah, thank you,
Nice
Anthony.
to hear your
Yeah,
stories.
yeah, it was
Thank
Love you
you,
great.
guys.
Patty.
Yeah,
Okay.
love you too.
Adios. Auto day.
Thank you,
Yeah.
One Infinite Creator. Thank you to our guides and allies. Thank you for gathering in this way.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Yeah. Love
Okay.
you all.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Ed. Bye, Elan.